In the vast cosmos where empires span galaxies and species number in the millions, there exists one universal truth that every civilization has come to accept. Humans are the weakest sentient race ever discovered. No natural armor, no claws, no telepathic abilities, no energy manipulation powers. They are soft, fragile creatures who die from the slightest injuries that other species would consider minor scratches. Yet Princess Queen Zarathel of the mighty Velnathi Empire, ruler of 7 star systems and commander of fleets that could shatter worlds, found herself frozen in her command throne, watching something that defied every law of nature she knew. On the battlefield below, a single human soldier stood against an army of her empire's most elite warriors. He carried primitive kinetic weapons, wore basic metal armor, and possessed no supernatural abilities. But as she watched him move through her forces like death incarnate, cutting down warriors who could crush starship hulls with their bare hands, one whispered word escaped her lips, a word that would echo through the galaxy and change the course of history forever. Impossible! The crystalline walls of the Velnathi flagship Eternal Dominion hummed with the energy of 1,000 conquered worlds. Princess Queen Zarathel stood before the massive observation deck, her 4 arms clasped behind her back as she gazed down at the blue-green worlds spinning below. Taros Prime, the humans called it, their home world, soon to be nothing more than another trophy in her collection. "My queen!" came the gravelly voice of General Kekstar, his massive form casting a shadow across the polished floor. The 8-foot-tall warrior's exoskeleton gleamed like black metal, and his 6 eyes focused on her with absolute devotion. The planetary defenses have been neutralized. Their orbital stations were pathetic. We lost only 3 fighters in the entire engagement. Zaratel's mandibles clicked in what might have been amusement. 3 fighters against an entire world's defenses? These humans truly are as weak as the report suggested. She turned, her elegant form moving with fluid grace. Unlike her general's brutish appearance, she possessed an alien beauty that had inspired countless artists across the galaxy. Her translucent skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns, and her 4 arms moved with perfect coordination. "What of their ground forces?" Scattered resistance at best, Your Majesty. "Their largest military installation houses perhaps 10,000 soldiers. Our advanced scouts report they carry primitive kinetic weapons and wear basic metal armor, no energy shields, no plasma weaponry, no psychic amplifiers. They are completely defenseless against our technology." The Princess Queen moved to her command throne, a living structure that pulsed with neural interfaces. As she settled into it, data streams flowed directly into her consciousness. Satellite feeds showed human cities sprawling across continents, their buildings low and unremarkable compared to the floating spires of Velnathi architecture. Population centers teemed with billions of the small, 2-armed creatures, going about their daily lives in blissful ignorance of the armada now surrounding their world. "Their population?" she asked, though the numbers were already flowing through her mind. "Approximately 8 billion, Your Majesty. All concentrated on the planetary surface. No orbital habitats, no moon colonies. They haven't even managed to establish permanent settlements on neighboring worlds." General Kekstar's tone carried clear disdain. "It will be a simple matter to establish control. Perhaps we won't even need to deploy the full invasion force." Zaratel considered this. The Velnathi Empire had conquered over 400 worlds in her lifetime, each presenting unique challenges. The crystal beings of Nexus 7 had taken 3 years to subjugate due to their ability to phase through matter. The hive-minded Zephyrians had required careful psychological warfare to break their collective consciousness. The energy beings of the Void Nebula had demanded entirely new weapon systems. But humans? The intelligence reports painted them as perhaps the most helpless species the Empire had ever encountered. No natural weapons, no special abilities, no technological superiority. They had barely managed to achieve faster-than-light travel within the last century, and their ships were crude fusion-powered vessels that couldn't match even the Empire's oldest designs. "Deploy the 3rd Legion to their capital city," she commanded. 5,000 warriors should be more than sufficient to secure their seat of government and force a surrender. I want this conquest completed within one planetary rotation. As you command, Your Majesty. Shall I order the subjugation protocol? The Princess Queen paused. The subjugation protocol was standard procedure for new conquest, a demonstration of overwhelming force designed to break enemy morale and prevent costly resistance. Typically, it involved the complete annihilation of the defending force's strongest military units, followed by the destruction of one major population center. The psychological impact usually resulted in immediate surrender from any rational species. But looking at the peaceful world below, with its primitive cities and defenseless inhabitants, she felt something she rarely experienced: mercy. No, she said finally. These humans appear to pose no meaningful threat. Deploy the Legion with standard conquest parameters. Accept their surrender when they inevitably offer it, and begin integration protocols. They may prove useful as a labor force. General Kekstar's mandibles twitched slightly, the Velnathi equivalent of surprise. Your Majesty, surely a show of force would be more efficient. These humans may not understand the futility of resistance without proper demonstration. Look at them, General. Zarathel gestured toward the planet below. They build their cities on the open ground with no shields or barriers. Their military installations are clustered in predictable patterns with minimal defensive measures. Their technology is centuries behind our own. What resistance could they possibly offer that would require a demonstration of force? The general bowed his massive head. Of course, Your Majesty. Your wisdom is beyond question. Within the hour, the invasion began. 5,000 of the Empire's finest warriors descended toward HFY Prime in sleek dropships, their destination the human capital city of New Geneva. Each warrior was a masterpiece of biological and technological enhancement. Their exoskeletons could withstand direct plasma hits, their strength could crush steel, and their reflexes operated at superhuman speeds. They carried weapons that could level buildings and wore armor that made them virtually invulnerable to primitive kinetic weapons. From her command throne, Princess Queen Zarathel monitored the descent through multiple data streams. The human response was exactly what she expected: complete chaos. Their military commanders screamed contradictory orders across primitive radio network. Fighter aircraft scrambled from airfields, their pilots clearly having no idea how to engage targets moving at the speeds her dropships achieved. Ground-based missile systems fired wild volleys that missed by kilometers. Pathetic, she murmured, watching a squadron of human jets attempt to intercept a single dropship. The aliens' craft simply accelerated beyond the humans' ability to track, leaving the primitive fighters circling in confusion. The first dropships touched down in the outskirts of New Geneva, and General Kekstar's voice crackled through the communication array. Landing successful, Your Majesty? Human military response is minimal. They appear to be retreating from all forward positions. Excellent. Proceed to the government district and secure their leadership. I want their surrender broadcast within the hour. But as the minutes passed, something unexpected began to happen. The initial reports of easy advance slowed, then stopped entirely. Communication from several forward units became sporadic, then ceased altogether. General Kekstar's updates grew increasingly terse and confused. Status report, General, the Princess Queen commanded after 30 minutes of silence. We are encountering unexpected resistance, Your Majesty. The humans are not behaving as projected. Zarathel leaned forward in her throne, concern creeping into her consciousness. Explain? They are not retreating. Despite the complete futility of their position, despite overwhelming technological disadvantage, they are fighting. Small groups are engaging our forces directly. They're using primitive tactics and obsolete weapons, but they refuse to surrender or withdraw. Surely you can handle a few desperate defenders, General. Of course, Your Majesty. But there's something else. We have lost contact with Advanced Unit 7. Last transmission indicated they were investigating human fortifications on the city's eastern perimeter. Princess Queen Zarathel felt a chill run through her consciousness. Advanced Unit 7 consisted of 12 of the Empire's most elite warriors, each capable of single-handedly conquering a small city. They carried enough firepower to level city blocks and wore armor that could withstand direct orbital bombardment. Lost contact? Explain. Unknown, Your Majesty. Their last transmission was a weapons discharge notification. Then nothing. We have dispatched Advanced Unit 3 to investigate. The Princess Queen began accessing direct battlefield feeds, something she rarely needed to do during such one-sided conflicts. What she saw confused her at first, then began to disturb her in ways she couldn't fully comprehend. The human soldiers were not retreating. Despite facing weapons and armor centuries beyond their understanding, despite watching their comrades fall to energy blasts that vaporized everything within a 10-meter radius, despite the mathematical impossibility of victory, they kept fighting. She watched a group of 5 humans take positions behind overturned vehicles, their primitive projectile weapons crackling against her warriors' energy shields. The barrier systems absorbed the kinetic impacts easily, but the humans didn't stop firing. Even when return plasma blasts turned their cover to molten slag, even when their weapons clearly had no effect on their enemy's armor, they continued to fight. This behavior is irrational, she said aloud, though no one was present to hear. They must understand they cannot win. But as she continued to observe, she began to realize that the humans did understand. Their communication channels, which her forces monitored continuously, carried no desperate pleas for rescue or confused demands for explanation. The human soldiers knew exactly what they faced, knew they were outmatched in every conceivable way, and chose to fight anyway. General Kekstar, she commanded. Report from Advanced Unit 3. The silence that followed lasted far too long. When the general's voice finally returned, it carried an edge she had never heard from him before. Your Majesty, Advanced Unit 3 has also ceased communication. We found the remains of Advanced Unit 7. Remains? The warriors were eliminated. Their armor was breached by kinetic impacts. Multiple kinetic impacts. Hundreds of them. The humans destroyed 12 of our finest warriors using nothing but primitive ballistic weapons. Princess Queen Zarathel rose from her throne, her 4 arms trembling slightly. This was impossible. Advanced warriors wore armor that could deflect starship weaponry. Their shields could absorb the energy output of small fusion reactors. The idea that primitive kinetic weapons could breach such defenses was like suggesting that a gentle breeze could topple a mountain. You're certain of these findings? Completely certain, Your Majesty. The damage patterns are unmistakable. Each warrior was subjected to sustained kinetic bombardment from multiple angles. The humans somehow coordinated their fire to overwhelm the shield generators, then concentrated their attacks on armor weak points with surgical precision. That would require impossible accuracy and timing. No species fights with such coordination without technological assistance. I know, Your Majesty, but the evidence is irrefutable. And there's more. We have recovered battlefield recordings from the fallen warriors' armor systems. The humans were talking to each other during the engagement, using primitive radio systems, but their coordination was flawless. They moved as if they could predict each other's actions, as if they shared a collective consciousness but without any technological interface we can detect. The Princess Queen returned to her throne, her mind racing through possibilities. The initial intelligence reports had been thorough and accurate. If humans possessed no natural psychic abilities, no hive mind connections, no technological systems that could explain such perfect battlefield coordination, yet somehow using nothing but spoken words and primitive communication devices, they had achieved tactical coordination that rivaled the Empire's most advanced units. Status of the remaining forces? She asked. We have pulled back to defensive positions. The humans have stopped advancing, but they have not retreated either. They appear to be waiting. For what? Unknown. But Your Majesty, there is one more thing. Our passive sensors have detected movement throughout the city. Large numbers of humans are moving toward our positions. Not military units, civilians. Men, women, even their young. They are carrying weapons and moving with apparent purpose. Princess Queen Zarathel felt something she had not experienced in decades of conquest: uncertainty. The behavior pattern she was observing made no logical sense. Civilian populations, when faced with overwhelming military force, either fled or surrendered. They did not arm themselves and march toward certain death, unless— General, immediately implement full defensive protocols. All warriors are to establish fortified positions and await further orders. We still significantly outnumber the human forces, even with the civilian additions. Surely you don't consider them a genuine threat. The Princess Queen looked down at the world below, watching the lights of the human city twinkle in the darkness. Somewhere down there in that primitive city with its crude buildings and obsolete technology, something was happening that challenged everything she understood about warfare, about rational behavior, about the very nature of intelligent life. "General," she said softly, "I am beginning to suspect that our intelligence reports were incomplete. The next 12 hours shattered everything Princess Queen Zarathel thought she understood about warfare." Dawn broke over New Geneva with an eerie stillness that made the Velnathi forces increasingly uneasy. The humans had not attacked during the night, but neither had they retreated. Instead, they had done something far more unsettling. They had organized. Through intercepted communications, the alien commanders listened in growing disbelief as the primitive two-legged beings coordinated a defense that spanned the entire city. "Status report, General Kekstar," the Princess Queen commanded from her throne aboard the Eternal Dominion. She had not slept, instead spending the night analyzing every piece of data her sensors could gather about the humans below. "The situation has evolved, Your Majesty." The general's voice carried a tension she had never heard from him before. "The humans have established a perimeter around our landing zones. They are not attacking, but they are clearly prepared to do so. Our scouts report defensive positions that demonstrate sophisticated understanding of urban warfare tactics. They are using primitive kinetic weapons and metal barriers." "Yes, Your Majesty, but their positioning is optimal. They have identified every weakness in our deployment pattern and positioned their forces to exploit those weaknesses. Furthermore, they appear to have complete knowledge of our armor and weapon specifications." Princess Queen Zarathel paused her analysis of human-civilian communication intercepts.
"Impossible!"
"This is their first contact with our technology." "I know, Your Majesty, but they are targeting the exact points where our armor is most vulnerable to kinetic impact. They are avoiding positions where our energy weapons would be most effective. They are behaving as if they have studied our equipment for years." The Princess Queen accessed the direct battlefield feeds again, and what she saw made her mandibles click in frustration. The humans had indeed positioned themselves with impossible precision. They had identified that Velnathati armor was weakest at joint connections and had positioned their marksmen accordingly. They had recognized that the aliens' energy weapons required direct line of sight and had created a maze of cover that made such targeting nearly impossible while still allowing their own kinetic weapons clear firing lanes. Have they received intelligence from another source? Could another species be advising them? "Negative, Your Majesty. Our communication intercepts show only human-to-human contact. No external advisory signals detected. They appear to be developing these tactics independently. That would require analytical capabilities far beyond their reported intelligence levels." As if to emphasize the point, a new communication intercept appeared in her consciousness, a human voice, calm and measured, speaking in their primitive language. The translation matrix made the words comprehensible. "Delta Team, this is command. Enemy armor shows thermal bloom approximately 3 seconds before energy discharge. Use that window for repositioning. Bravo Team, their shield generators cycle every 47 seconds. Coordinate your fire for maximum impact during the low power phase." Princess Queen Zarathel felt her breathing patterns shift involuntarily. The humans had observed her warriors for less than 24 hours, yet they had identified operational patterns that her own forces hadn't realized they were displaying. The thermal bloom before energy weapons fired was a design flaw that Velnathi engineers had never noticed. The shield generator cycling was a power management feature so subtle that only the most sophisticated sensors should have been able to detect it. Yet somehow, using nothing but their organic senses and primitive observation equipment, the humans had identified both weaknesses and were already developing countermeasures. General, what is the current assessment of human casualties? Despite engaging our forces for over 18 hours, human casualties remain minimal. They are exhibiting survival rates that should be impossible given their biological limitations. Explain. Several human soldiers have been struck by plasma discharge that should have resulted in immediate death, yet they continue to function. Medical analysis suggests they possess pain tolerance and physical resilience far beyond our projections. Princess Queen Zarathel accessed the medical data streams. What she found challenged her understanding of organic biology. Humans who had sustained injuries that would incapacitate most species were continuing to fight. Plasma burns that should have sent them into shock were being treated with primitive medical supplies and basic field dressings, yet the soldiers returned to combat within hours. One particular case caught her attention. A human soldier designated as Sergeant Morrison had sustained a direct energy blast to his left arm, resulting in severe tissue damage and what should have been debilitating pain. Yet battlefield cameras showed him continuing to operate his weapon using only his uninjured arm, maintaining the same level of accuracy and tactical awareness as before his injury. "This pain tolerance is unprecedented," she murmured, reviewing the data. Most species would be unconscious or in shock from such trauma. But it wasn't just individual resilience that disturbed her. The humans were exhibiting collective behavior patterns that defied explanation. When one soldier fell, others immediately moved to fill the gap in their defensive line. When ammunition ran low, resources were redistributed with perfect efficiency. When communication equipment was damaged, they reverted to hand signals and visual cues that maintained their coordination seamlessly. It was as if they were operating from a shared tactical consciousness, yet every scan confirmed they possessed no telepathic abilities or technological augmentation. "General, I want a detailed analysis of their decision-making process. How are they maintaining such perfect coordination? We have been monitoring their communications continuously, Your Majesty. They appear to be using a combination of verbal instructions, visual signals, and what they term battlefield awareness. Our linguists are struggling to translate this last concept, as it seems to refer to an intuitive understanding of combat flow that has no technological basis." Princess Queen Zarathel left her throne and moved to the observation deck, gazing down at the planet below. From orbit, the human city looked peaceful, its lights twinkling in the darkness like stars. But she knew that down there, in those primitive streets with their crude buildings, something was happening that challenged the fundamental assumptions of galactic civilization. Every conquered species had eventually submitted to superior firepower. Every intelligent race had recognized the futility of resistance when faced with overwhelming technological advantage. It was a universal constant, as reliable as the laws of physics. Yet these humans were not submitting. They were not even retreating. Instead, they were learning, adapting, and somehow improving their defensive capabilities in real time. "Your Majesty," came General Kekstar's voice through the communication array, "we have a new development. The humans are requesting communication with our command structure. They wish to negotiate surrender? Unknown. They have identified one of our communication frequencies and are transmitting a message directed specifically to ship-based command authority. They are requesting direct dialogue with what they term whoever is in charge up there." Princess Queen Zarathel felt a chill of surprise. The humans had identified her command ship's communication frequency and deduced the existence of orbital command authority, despite having no technology capable of detecting her vessel's presence. Their primitive sensors should not have been able to penetrate her ship's stealth systems. How did they locate our communication array? Unknown, Your Majesty. But the message is unusual. They are not offering surrender or requesting terms. They are asking for a formal meeting to discuss the situation. As if they consider themselves equals in these negotiations? It would appear so, Your Majesty. Princess Queen Zarathel considered this development. In her experience, species that requested negotiations were either seeking surrender terms or attempting to buy time while preparing some desperate defensive measure. But the human's tone, as translated by her communication systems, carried neither desperation nor submission. Instead, it conveyed something she had rarely encountered: confidence. "What could they possibly be confident about?" she asked aloud. "Unknown, Your Majesty. But there is another concerning development. Our deep-range sensors have detected movement throughout their planet. Military units from other continents are mobilizing, not toward our position, but toward strategic locations across their world. It appears they are implementing some form of global defensive protocol." Global defensive protocol? Against a single landing force? It would appear so. And Your Majesty, the coordination between these distant units is perfect. Forces separated by thousands of kilometers are moving in perfect synchronization, as if operating from a single command structure, yet we detect no technological means for such coordination. Princess Queen Zarathel returned to her throne, her mind racing through possibilities. What she was observing violated everything she understood about primitive species and their capabilities. The humans were demonstrating strategic thinking that matched her own military commanders, tactical awareness that rivaled her finest warriors, and technological analysis capabilities that challenged her intelligence specialists, all while using nothing but organic brains, primitive communication systems, and obsolete equipment. "General, I want complete sensor sweeps of their planet. Every electromagnetic signature, every energy reading, every possible technological enhancement they might be hiding." "Already completed, Your Majesty. Results are negative. They possess exactly the technology our initial surveys indicated. Primitive fusion power, basic electronic systems, crude chemical propulsion. No hidden technological capabilities detected." Then how are they achieving this level of performance? The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Veltar, the expedition's xenobiologist, had been monitoring the human biological responses throughout the engagement. Her transmission carried a note of scientific excitement that cut through the military tension. "Your Majesty, I believe I have identified the source of the humans' unexpected capabilities. It's not technological enhancement or hidden abilities. It's neurological architecture," explained. "The human brain structure is unlike anything in our database. Most intelligent species develop consciousness through specialized neural pathways optimized for specific cognitive functions. Logical analysis, pattern recognition, creative problem solving. Each function typically requires dedicated neural architecture." "Correct. What makes humans different? Their neural pathways are not specialized. Instead, they possess what appears to be a massively parallel processing system capable of simultaneously handling multiple complex cognitive functions. More importantly, their brains show unprecedented integration between logical analysis and what they term intuition, a rapid pattern recognition system that operates below conscious awareness." "You're suggesting they can process complex tactical information subconsciously?" "Exactly. But there's more. Their neural architecture includes extensive mirror neuron systems that allow them to predict and coordinate with each other's behavior patterns. In effect, each human soldier can subconsciously model the tactical thinking of every other human in their unit, creating emergent group intelligence that exceeds the sum of individual capabilities." "No, Your Majesty, something far more sophisticated. A hive mind shares information but processes it identically across all members. The humans maintain individual consciousness while sharing predictive modeling. Each mind contributes unique analysis while benefiting from collective tactical awareness. It's evolutionary optimization for cooperative problem solving at a level we've never encountered." Princess Queen Zarathel sat in silence for several minutes processing this information. If Dr. Veltar's analysis was correct, then the humans weren't just another primitive species with obsolete technology. They were a form of collective intelligence that could adapt and evolve their capabilities in real time, limited only by their current technological base rather than their cognitive potential, which meant that every moment they spent observing her forces, they were becoming more dangerous. "General Kextar," she commanded. "Immediate withdrawal to secondary positions. All forces are to disengage and establish defensive perimeters at maximum safe distance." "Surely you don't consider these humans a genuine threat to our forces?" Princess Queen Zarathel looked down at the planet below, where billions of these remarkable beings were going about their daily lives, unaware that their species had just revealed capabilities that could reshape the balance of power in the galaxy. "General," she said softly, "I am beginning to suspect that we are not conquering this world, we are being evaluated by it." 3 days after the initial landing, Princess Queen Zarathel found herself facing something she had never encountered in 40 years of conquest: a stalemate. Her forces controlled 3 square kilometers of New Geneva's outskirts. The humans controlled everything else. Neither side had attacked for over 48 hours, yet the tension in the air was so thick it seemed to pulse with its own energy. The Velnathi warriors, accustomed to swift victories against overwhelmed opponents, now found themselves in an endless waiting game against an enemy that refused to follow any known pattern of behavior. "Report, General," she commanded, though she already knew what he would say. The situation had not changed since yesterday or the day before. "The humans maintain their positions, Your Majesty. No advancement, no retreat. They appear to be studying us." Studying us for what purpose? But our intelligence teams have identified something disturbing. The humans have established what they call observation posts throughout the city. These positions serve no defensive purpose that we can identify, yet they maintain constant surveillance of our forces using primitive optical equipment. Princess Queen Zarathela accessed the surveillance feeds, watching human soldiers peer through crude telescopes and mechanical devices that belonged in a museum rather than a modern battlefield. Yet somehow these primitive instruments were providing them with intelligence that allowed them to predict her forces' movements with uncanny accuracy. Have they made any aggressive moves? But there have been incidents. Individual humans have approached our perimeter under flags of truce. They claim to be conducting what they term reconnaissance, but they appear more interested in observing our equipment and behavior patterns than in gathering military intelligence. "And you have allowed this?" But these interactions have been unusual. The humans ask technical questions about our armor specifications, weapon capabilities, and tactical doctrines. When we refuse to provide such information, they simply observe our responses and appear to deduce the answers independently. Princess Queen Zarathel felt a familiar chill. The humans were not just studying her forces, they were conducting systematic analysis of Velnathi military capabilities using nothing but direct observation and logical deduction. It was like watching primitive astronomers map the cosmos using only their eyes and mathematical reasoning. What specific information have they requested? Energy weapon recharge cycles, armor material composition, shield generator power requirements, communication frequencies, command structure protocols, supply logistics, and psychological profiles of different warrior castes. Psychological profiles? They seem particularly interested in how individual warriors react to stress, unexpected situations, and prolonged combat. Several humans have deliberately created minor incidents near our perimeter, dropped objects, loud noises, sudden movements, while observing our forces' responses. The Princess Queen reviewed the incident reports, and what she found disturbed her more than open warfare would have. The humans were conducting behavioral analysis of her warriors with the systematic approach of professional xenopsychologists. They were identifying individual personality traits, stress responses, and decision-making patterns among her soldiers. More troubling, they were being successful. Their primitive analysis techniques were yielding accurate psychological profiles that matched her own military personnel files. "Dr. Beltar," she commanded through the communication array, "I need your assessment of the human's analytical capabilities." The xenobiologist's response came immediately, as if she had been waiting for the question. "Your Majesty, I have been monitoring their behavioral analysis techniques. What they are accomplishing should be impossible without sophisticated technological assistance. Yet they are accomplishing it nonetheless, indeed, and I believe I understand how. Their neural architecture allows for what they call pattern recognition. They can observe complex systems, including other intelligent beings, and intuitively understand the underlying patterns that govern behavior. It's as if they possess an innate ability to reverse engineer the thought processes of other species. If humans could understand the behavioral patterns of other species simply by observation, then they were developing a comprehensive understanding of Velnathi psychology, tactics, and capabilities while revealing nothing about themselves. What do our psychological profiles tell us about human behavior? That is the most disturbing aspect, Your Majesty. Our analysis teams have been studying the humans for 3 days using our most advanced psychological assessment techniques. The results are contradictory. Explain. Individual humans display personality traits that span the entire psychological spectrum. Some are cautious and analytical, others are aggressive and impulsive. Some appear to be natural leaders, others seem to prefer following orders. Yet when they operate as a group, these individual differences disappear entirely. They function with perfect unity of purpose while maintaining individual decision-making autonomy. Princess Queen Zarathel felt pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to form in her mind. You're suggesting they can suppress individual psychological traits when necessary? Not suppress, Your Majesty. Integrate. They appear capable of combining different personality types into emergent group personalities that incorporate the strengths of each individual while minimizing weaknesses. It's as if they can become whatever type of collective intelligence the situation requires. Show me an example. Yesterday, a group of 5 humans approached our eastern perimeter under a truce flag. Individual analysis showed one was naturally aggressive, one was analytical, one was cautious, one was intuitive, and one was what they called diplomatic. Yet when they interacted with our forces, they functioned as a single entity that was simultaneously diplomatic, analytical, cautious, intuitive, and assertive. Each individual contributed their strongest traits while compensating for others' limitations. The Princess Queen studied the encounter recordings. What she saw challenged her fundamental understanding of how intelligent minds functioned. The 5 humans moved and spoke as if they shared a single consciousness, yet maintained distinct individual personalities. They anticipated each other's words and actions with perfect precision, yet each contributed unique perspectives to their collective decision-making. It was like watching 5 musicians perform a complex symphony while simultaneously composing it. Dr. Veltar, in your professional opinion, how long would it take these humans to develop comprehensive understanding of our force's capabilities? The silence that followed was longer than she expected. When the xenobiologist finally responded, her voice carried a note of scientific fascination mixed with professional concern. Based on their current rate of analysis, they will achieve complete tactical understanding of our forces within the next 24 hours. Complete strategic understanding within a week. Complete technological understanding within a month. Well, technological understanding? They cannot analyze our technology without accessing it directly. That's what I initially believed, Your Majesty, but their observational techniques are extraordinarily sophisticated. They have already deduced the basic principles of our energy weapons by observing muzzle flash patterns, recoil effects, and thermal signatures. They have identified our communication frequencies by monitoring our behavioral responses to incoming transmissions. They are reverse engineering our technology through pure observation and logical analysis.
Princess Queen Zarathel felt the first stirrings of something she had not experienced in decades. Genuine concern for the outcome of a military engagement.
Not fear of defeat, her forces still possessed overwhelming technological superiority, but concern about what would happen when the humans finished their analysis. General Kekstar, she commanded, I want a full tactical assessment of our position. Assume the humans achieve complete understanding of our capabilities within 24 hours. What are our strategic options? With complete understanding of our capabilities, they would be able to predict our movements, anticipate our tactics, and potentially develop countermeasures for our technological advantages, the general replied after a long pause. However, they would still lack the technology to implement effective countermeasures. Knowledge alone cannot overcome the physical limitations of their primitive equipment. Are you certain of that assessment? Physical laws are absolute, Your Majesty. Their kinetic weapons cannot penetrate our armor, regardless of how intelligently they employ them. Their communication systems cannot match the speed and coordination of our neural interfaces. Their movement capabilities cannot match our enhanced physiology. Knowledge without capability remains mere academic understanding. Princess Queen Zarathel wanted to accept this analysis, but something about the human's behavior suggested that her general was missing a crucial factor. She accessed the long-range sensor data, studying the global pattern of human movement that had been developing over the past 3 days. What she saw made her mandibles click in concern. Human military units across their planet were not just mobilizing, they were repositioning themselves with perfect strategic coordination. Forces in different hemispheres were moving in patterns that suggested they were preparing for a conflict that extended far beyond the small engagement in New Geneva. General, are you monitoring global human military activity? Of course, Your Majesty. Standard observation protocols for planetary conquest. Then explain why human forces on continents we have never visited are deploying in defensive formations optimized for combat against our specific tactical doctrines. The silence that followed was telling. When General Kekstar finally responded, his voice carried a note of uncertainty. That should not be possible, Your Majesty. They have no communication with forces outside their immediate area. They possess no global intelligence network capable of distributing tactical analysis to distant units. Yet it is happening nonetheless. Princess Queen Zarathel accessed the global surveillance feeds, studying human military movements across their entire planet. What she found defied explanation. Human forces in Asia were establishing defensive positions identical to those in Europe. Military units in the Americas were implementing tactics that mirrored those developed in Africa. Supply chains were being reorganized with perfect efficiency to support extended conflict, all without any detectable communication between continents, all while using technology that should not have allowed such coordination. Dr. Velter, she said, how are they achieving global tactical coordination without global communication infrastructure? I believe they are using what they call tactical doctrine, Your Majesty. It appears that individual humans can develop new tactical approaches and trust that other humans, when faced with similar situations, will independently develop identical approaches. Not identical, Your Majesty. Compatible. Their neural architecture allows them to think in parallel rather than in sequence. When presented with the same tactical problem, different human groups will develop solutions that are designed to integrate with solutions developed by other groups they have never met. Princess Queen Zarathel felt a chill of comprehension. The humans were not just analyzing her forces, they were preparing for a conflict that would span their entire world. They were treating her small invasion force not as a conquest attempt, but as a preliminary probe that would be followed by a larger assault, which meant they were preparing to fight not just her current forces, but her entire fleet. General, she said softly, how long would our current supplies last in extended combat? Approximately 6 weeks at current consumption rates, Your Majesty. Why do you ask? Because I believe the humans are preparing to outlast us. She accessed the economic data streams, studying human resource allocation patterns across their planet. What she found confirmed her suspicions. The humans were not just mobilizing military forces, they were reorganizing their entire civilization for sustained warfare. Industrial production was shifting to military applications. Agricultural resources were being stockpiled for extended conflict. Civilian populations were being relocated to maximize survival during prolonged combat. They were preparing for a war that could last years against an invasion force that had supplies for 6 weeks. Dr. Veltar, she commanded, in your opinion, what do the humans expect to achieve through prolonged resistance?
I believe they expect to learn, Your Majesty, Every moment of conflict provides them with additional data about our capabilities, our limitations, and our weaknesses.
They appear to be treating this engagement as an educational opportunity rather than a military disaster. They are studying us the same way we might study a newly discovered alien artifact, Your Majesty. With systematic analysis, careful observation, and patient determination to understand every aspect of how we function, they view our presence as a chance to learn about galactic civilization, advanced technology, and interstellar warfare. And then they will use that knowledge to ensure they never face such a disadvantage again. Princess Queen Zarathel sat in her throne, gazing down at the peaceful blue-green world that had somehow become the most dangerous place she had ever encountered. The humans were not trying to defeat her forces through direct combat. They were trying to understand her forces so completely that no future invasion would ever succeed. They were turning her conquest attempt into their graduate education in galactic warfare. "General Kekstar," she said finally, "I want a complete review of our strategic objectives on this world." "Your Majesty, I am beginning to suspect that we are not the ones conducting this test." It came through official diplomatic channels broadcast on frequencies reserved for formal communication between galactic powers. The transmission originated from the human capital city below, yet carried encryption protocols and linguistic sophistication that should have required decades of study to master. "Greetings, Princess Queen Zaratel of the Velnathi Empire," the message began, spoken in perfect Velnathi formal diplomatic dialect. "We are the unified command authority of the human systems. We wish to discuss terms for the immediate cessation of hostilities and the establishment of formal diplomatic relations between our civilizations." The Princess Queen stared at the communication display, her four arms frozen in disbelief. The humans had identified her personal name and exact title, despite never having received this information through any channel her forces monitored. They had mastered her language's most complex grammatical structures and cultural nuances. Most disturbing of all, they were claiming to represent human systems, plural, as if they controlled multiple star systems rather than a single isolated world. "General Kekstar," she commanded, "verify the source of this transmission. Confirmed originating from the surface, Your Majesty, but the technology required to generate it should not exist on this planet. The encryption alone requires processing power equivalent to our primary computer systems. Dr. B. Veltar, analysis?" The xenobiologist's response carried a note of scientific excitement that bordered on manic. "Your Majesty, I believe we have dramatically underestimated human technological capabilities. This transmission demonstrates computational and linguistic abilities far beyond what our initial surveys detected." "Impossible. Our sensor sweeps were comprehensive. They possess only primitive technology." "That's what I initially concluded. But I've been analyzing their infrastructure more carefully. Their primitive electronic networks are actually highly sophisticated parallel processing systems. What we interpreted as crude communication devices are components of a planetary-scale distributed computer network." Princess Queen Zarathel felt reality shifting around her. "You're suggesting their entire planet functions as a single computational system?" "Their population. Every human carries what they call personal devices, primitive computers that we dismissed as irrelevant. But these devices are networked together in ways that create emergent computational capabilities. 8 billion humans, each contributing processing power, creates a collective intelligence that rivals our most advanced artificial minds. Why didn't our initial scans detect this? Because it's not a technological network in the conventional sense. It's a hybrid biological-technological system that uses human consciousness as the primary processing substrate. The devices merely facilitate communication between human minds that are doing the actual computational work." Princess Queen Zaratel reviewed the intelligence data with this new understanding, and patterns that had seemed random suddenly revealed their underlying structure. The humans weren't just coordinating military resistance, they were operating as a single vast intelligence that could focus its attention on any problem with the combined processing power of billions of minds. Dr. Veltar, how long would it take such a system to reverse engineer our technology? Based on the computational power available to them, they may have already finished. As if summoned by her words, a new transmission arrived. This one carried technical specifications that made her mandibles click in alarm. Princess Queen Zaratel, the human voice continued with the same diplomatic formality. We have completed our analysis of Velnathi military capabilities and technological systems. We wish to demonstrate our understanding as a gesture of good faith before proceeding to formal negotiations. The transmission included detailed schematics of Velnathi energy weapons, complete technical specifications for their armor systems, mathematical models of their shield generators, and tactical analyses of their military doctrine that exceeded the thoroughness of her own intelligence reports. "How is this possible?" she whispered. "It gets worse, Your Majesty," General Kekstar reported through the communication array. "The humans have begun demonstrating technological capabilities that match our own. Our perimeter sensors are detecting energy signatures consistent with shield generators, plasma weapons, and advanced communication systems. They cannot have manufactured such technology in 7 days. That's what we assumed, but Dr. Beltar's analysis team has identified how they accomplished this. They didn't build new technology, they repurposed their existing infrastructure. Princess Queen Zarathel accessed the sensor feeds, studying the human positions around her force's perimeter. What she saw defied belief. The humans had somehow converted their primitive fusion power plants into weapons-grade energy sources. Their crude communication networks were now carrying encrypted signals that matched her own military protocols. Their basic manufacturing facilities were producing components that functioned as advanced defensive systems. Veltar, explain how primitive technology can be converted to match our capabilities. It's elegantly simple technology designed for maximum adaptability. Where we build specialized systems optimized for specific functions, humans build general-purpose systems that can be reconfigured for any function. Their crude fusion reactors are actually more efficient than ours. They just operate at lower power levels because humans didn't need maximum output until now. And now? Now they've networked their planetary power grid to achieve energy outputs that exceed our capability to generate locally. They've converted their manufacturing infrastructure into a distributed production system that can create any component they can design. They've transformed their global communication network into a command and control system that surpasses our own fleet coordination protocols. Princess Queen Zarathel felt the universe reorganizing itself around this new understanding. The humans hadn't been primitive, they had been patient. They had developed technology that prioritized adaptability over specialization, efficiency over raw power, and collective capability over individual enhancement. When faced with superior alien technology, they hadn't tried to match it directly. They had instead leveraged their existing infrastructure's adaptability to create functional equivalents using completely different technological approaches. Rapidly deteriorating, Your Majesty. The humans now possess defensive capabilities that match our offensive systems. More concerning, they have achieved perfect intelligence regarding our capabilities while revealing nothing about their own enhanced systems. Enhanced systems? Their new defensive networks are demonstrating capabilities that exceed simple technological conversion. They appear to have created integrated weapon systems that combine their biological networking with their technological infrastructure. Individual human soldiers now have access to computational support that rivals our most advanced command systems. Princess Queen Zarathel accessed the battlefield analysis feeds, watching human forces coordinate with precision that surpassed even her elite units. Each soldier moved as if guided by perfect tactical intelligence, yet maintained individual initiative and creative problem-solving. They had somehow created the ultimate fusion of collective intelligence and individual autonomy. Dr. Veltar, in your professional opinion, what are we facing? A civilization that has been preparing for this encounter for much longer than we realized, Your Majesty. This is first contact. I don't believe that's accurate. Analysis of human historical records suggests they have been developing their technological and social systems specifically to handle encounters with superior alien civilizations. They call it preparation for the unknown and have built their entire civilization around the assumption that such encounters would eventually occur. Princess Queen Zarathel felt pieces of the puzzle clicking into place with disturbing clarity. You're suggesting they expected us? Not us specifically, but something like us. Their technological development patterns, their social organization, their educational systems, their military doctrines, everything is optimized for rapid adaptation to completely unknown challenges. They have spent centuries preparing for encounters with alien civilizations possessing unknown capabilities. Why would a species prepare for something they had never encountered? Their entire history is a sequence of encounters with unknown environments, unknown challenges, and unknown threats. They developed the capability to adapt to anything because their planetary environment constantly required such adaptation. The Princess Queen accessed human historical databases that her intelligence teams had compiled over the past week. What she found supported Dr. Veltar's analysis. Human civilization was built around the concept of encountering and overcoming unknown challenges. Their exploration of their own planet had required them to adapt to every possible environment. Their technological development had prioritized flexibility and adaptability over specialization. Their social systems had evolved to coordinate collective responses to unprecedented problems. They had turned their entire species into a civilization-scale problem-solving engine designed to handle absolutely anything the universe could present. Dr. Veltar, she said slowly, what would happen if we attempted to complete our original conquest objectives? Based on their current capabilities and rate of advancement, they would successfully resist our forces indefinitely while simultaneously developing the technological base required for interstellar expansion. Within a standard year, they would possess the capability to project military force to our home systems.
Within a year? That would require technological advancement rates far beyond any known species.
They're revealing it. Analysis suggests they possess theoretical understanding of virtually every technology we employ. They simply lacked the manufacturing infrastructure to implement it until we provided them with working examples to reverse engineer. Princess Queen Zarathel felt the foundation of everything she believed about galactic civilization crumbling beneath her. The humans weren't a primitive species that had stumbled into space travel. They were a highly advanced civilization that had deliberately chosen to develop along a completely different technological path. Where her people had optimized for immediate power and specialization, humans had optimized for long-term adaptability and collective capability. Where her empire had conquered through technological superiority, humans had prepared to learn from and ultimately exceed any technological advantage they encountered. They had turned their apparent weakness into their greatest strength. General Kekstar, she commanded, prepare to receive the human diplomatic delegation. We will hear their terms. Your Majesty, surely we are not considering surrender to a species we could have conquered easily just days ago. Princess Queen Zarathel looked down at the blue-green world that had taught her more about the nature of intelligence and civilization than 40 years of conquest. Down there, 8 billion human minds were working together to solve the puzzle of galactic politics, just as they had solved the puzzle of her technology. General, she said softly, I don't believe we could have conquered them easily. I believe we were allowed to land so they could study us. Lesson 21.
Allowed to land? Think about it.
A species that can coordinate planetary defense systems and convert their entire infrastructure to military applications within a week could certainly have prevented our initial landing if they had chosen to. They let us establish a foothold because they wanted to observe our capabilities up close. But why would they risk such exposure? Princess Queen Zarathel smiled, an expression that didn't translate well across species but somehow felt appropriate. Because they weren't risking anything. They were confident they could handle whatever we presented because that's what they do. They handle whatever the universe presents. She looked down at the human world with something approaching respect. Down there, a civilization that had prepared for centuries to meet the unknown was now ready to take its place among the stars. They had used her invasion as their final examination, and they had passed with unprecedented excellence. General, send a formal response to the human delegation. Inform them that the Princess Queen of the Velnathi Empire would be honored to discuss terms for formal diplomatic relations between our civilizations. And our invasion objectives, she said quietly, have become irrelevant. We are no longer the conquerors here. We are the students. 2 weeks after first contact, Princess Queen Zaratel stood in the most unusual diplomatic meeting of her long career. The venue was itself a testament to human adaptability. What had been a simple conference center in New Geneva had been transformed into a sophisticated diplomatic facility that incorporated both Velnathi and human architectural principles. The humans had somehow analyzed her species' environmental preferences and psychological comfort requirements, then designed a space that felt familiar to her while showcasing their own aesthetic sensibilities. The human delegation consisted of 5 individuals who collectively represented their species' approach to complex problem-solving. Dr. Sarah Chen, their chief scientist, possessed an understanding of physics that challenged her own specialists. General Marcus Rodriguez demonstrated tactical thinking that matched her finest military commanders. Ambassador Elena Vasquez spoke perfect Velnathi and seemed to understand her culture better than some of her own people. Dr. James Morrison, their xenobiologist, had provided insights into Velnathi psychology that were disturbing in their accuracy. Finally, Director Alex Zhang coordinated the group with an efficiency that suggested he was accustomed to managing impossibly complex situations. Princess Queen Zarathel, Ambassador Vasquez began in flawless formal Velnathi, we are honored by your presence and grateful for your willingness to engage in diplomatic dialogue. We hope this meeting will mark the beginning of a mutually beneficial relationship between our civilizations. The Princess Queen studied the 5 humans with fascination. Each individual displayed the specialized expertise she expected from a diplomatic team, yet they functioned with the collective coordination she had observed in their military forces. They anticipated each other's words and built upon each other's thoughts with seamless precision, yet maintained distinct individual perspectives. Ambassador Vasquez, she replied, I must confess that my initial assumptions about your species have proven inadequate. Perhaps we should begin by discussing what each of our civilizations brings to a potential alliance. Chen leaned forward slightly, her expression carrying scientific curiosity rather than diplomatic caution. With respect, Your Majesty, we believe you may be operating under some misconceptions about human capabilities and intentions. Would you permit us to clarify our actual technological and social development? Please proceed. Director Zhang activated a holographic display system that made Princess Queen Zaratel's mandibles click in surprise. The projection quality matched her own ship's systems, yet the technology generating it appeared to be entirely of human design. This is our actual infrastructure, Zhang explained as the display showed a 3-dimensional map of human space. What your initial surveys detected was our civilian technology operating at minimal output levels. We maintain separate industrial and military capabilities that are not visible to standard reconnaissance. The holographic display expanded, revealing a network that spanned not just Earth but dozens of star systems. Colonies, mining operations, research stations, and manufacturing facilities connected by faster-than-light communication networks and transportation systems that rivaled anything in Velnathi space. Our long-range surveys detected no evidence of human expansion beyond your home system. General Rodriguez smiled, an expression that somehow conveyed both friendliness and professional competence. Our expansion methodology prioritizes stealth and minimal environmental impact. We establish outposts that are designed to be invisible to standard survey techniques while maintaining full functionality. Dr. Morrison added, we learned early in our space exploration that advertising our presence might not be wise until we understood who else was out there, so we developed what we call ghost colonies, fully functional settlements that appear to be uninhabited asteroid fields or natural phenomena. The display shifted, showing detailed views of human installations that looked like nothing more than space debris or natural formations. Yet the technical specifications revealed manufacturing capabilities, population centers, and defensive systems that exceeded many established galactic civilizations. Why reveal this information now? Princess Queen Zarathel asked. Ambassador Vasquez responded with diplomatic precision. Because we have completed our evaluation of Velnathi civilization and concluded that formal diplomatic contact serves both our interests. Your empire represents exactly the type of established galactic power we hope to encounter, sophisticated, honorable, and capable of mutual respect. The evaluation, your arrival provided us with an invaluable opportunity to study galactic military technology, diplomatic protocols, and civilizational psychology through direct observation, Dr. Chen explained. We have used this information to update our understanding of galactic politics and determine our optimal approach to joining the broader interstellar community. Princess Queen Zarathel felt a mixture of admiration and unease. You used our invasion attempt as an intelligence-gathering operation? More accurately, Director Zong said, we used it as a comprehensive assessment of galactic standards. Your forces demonstrated exemplary professional competence, advanced technology, and civilized military conduct. This suggested that the Velnathi Empire operates according to principles we can respect and work with. And if we had failed your assessment, the 5 humans exchanged a look that carried entire conversations in a fraction of a second. General Rodriguez answered carefully, we have contingency plans for various scenarios. But we are pleased that such plans proved unnecessary. Dr. Morrison activated another holographic display showing detailed analyses of Velnathi technology, psychology, culture, and military capabilities. The thoroughness was staggering. They had developed understanding of her civilization that matched her own intelligence services assessments. 2 weeks, actually, Dr. Chen replied. Human cognitive architecture is optimized for rapid analysis of complex systems. We can develop comprehensive understanding of new civilizations quite quickly when we have adequate data, which we now have, Ambassador Vasquez added. We understand Velnathi technology well enough to contribute improvements. We comprehend your social structure sufficiently to navigate diplomatic protocols. We have identified numerous areas where our civilizations could benefit from technological and cultural exchange. Princess Queen Zarathel studied the displays showing human technological capabilities. What she saw challenged everything she thought she understood about galactic development patterns. Human technology was not just advanced, it was elegant, efficient, and designed with principles that her own engineers were only beginning to explore. Your energy systems appear to be more efficient than ours, she observed. Different approach to the same physical principles, Dr. Chen explained. Velnathi technology optimizes for maximum output and specialized function. Human technology optimizes for efficiency, adaptability, and integration. Neither approach is superior. They're complementary. Director Zong smiled. Velnathi military systems combined with human logistics capabilities would create unprecedented effectiveness. Human manufacturing techniques integrated with Velnathi materials science would revolutionize industrial production. Velnathi exploration technology merged with human adaptive systems would enable previously impossible scientific research, not subjugation or conquest, but genuine partnership between equals. 2 civilizations that had developed along completely different paths, now offering to share their accumulated knowledge and capabilities. What do you propose as the structure of such cooperation? Ambassador Vasquez activated a new display showing proposed diplomatic frameworks, full alliance between equals, with joint ventures in exploration, research, and development. Shared military cooperation for mutual defense and peacekeeping. Cultural exchange programs to promote understanding. Economic integration to benefit both civilizations. You're proposing to restructure galactic politics. We're proposing to demonstrate what's possible when advanced civilizations work together instead of competing for dominance, General Rodriguez explained. Current galactic politics operates on conquest and subordination models. We suggest partnership and mutual enhancement as alternatives. Morrison added, our analysis indicates that most galactic conflicts arise from resource competition and technological stagnation. Cooperation eliminates resource competition while accelerating technological advancement for all participants. Princess Queen Zarathel considered the proposal. Everything about human civilization suggested they were capable of fulfilling such ambitious commitments. Their technology was genuinely advanced, their social organization was remarkably stable, and their problem-solving capabilities exceeded anything she had previously encountered. More importantly, they had demonstrated absolute trustworthiness. They could have destroyed her invasion force easily once they revealed their true capabilities, yet they had chosen negotiation and cooperation instead. What guarantees do you offer for the success of such an alliance? The 5 humans smiled simultaneously, an expression that somehow conveyed complete confidence without arrogance. Director Zhang answered, "The same guarantee we've always operated under. We adapt to whatever challenges arise and find solutions that work for everyone involved. That's not much of a guarantee. It's the only guarantee that matters." Dr. Chen said, "Formal treaties and legal structures can be broken or circumvented. Adaptive capability and mutual benefit create relationships that strengthen over time instead of deteriorating. Your Majesty, we understand that this proposal represents a significant departure from established galactic politics. We're asking you to trust a species you've known for 2 weeks to reshape the fundamental structure of interstellar civilization." "Yes," Princess Queen Zarathal said slowly, "you are. But consider what you've observed about human capabilities and character over those 2 weeks," General Rodriguez said. "We kept our word during combat operations. We demonstrated restraint when we possessed overwhelming advantage. We shared information freely when we could have maintained secrets. We chose cooperation when we could have chosen dominance. And most importantly," Dr. Morrison added, "we solved problems you couldn't solve using methods you hadn't considered while respecting your dignity and autonomy throughout the process." Princess Queen Zarathel sat in silence for several minutes, processing not just the formal proposal, but the implications for her entire civilization. The humans were offering her empire something unprecedented, true partnership with equals, rather than dominance over inferiors or subordination to superiors. More than that, they were offering a model for galactic civilization that could transform how all species interacted. Instead of the current system of conquest and exploitation, they proposed cooperation and mutual enhancement. Instead of competition for limited resources, they suggested collaborative development of unlimited capabilities. "This alliance you propose," she said finally, "it would require fundamental changes in how the Velnathi Empire operates. It would require fundamental changes in how galactic civilization operates," Director Zhang agreed. "That's exactly what we're proposing." "And you believe such changes are possible?" All 5 humans smiled, their expressions carrying absolute confidence in their collective ability to handle whatever challenges arose. "Changing impossible situations is what we do." Princess Queen Zartel looked at the 5 humans who had somehow transformed her invasion force into a diplomatic mission, her conquest into an alliance, and her understanding of galactic civilization into something entirely new. They had taken the most challenging situation she had ever encountered and turned it into the most promising opportunity her empire had ever been offered. She thought of her fleet waiting in orbit, her generals expecting conquest, her emperor anticipating another trophy world. Then she thought of the limitless possibilities that genuine cooperation with human civilization could offer. "Ambassador Vasquez," she said formally, "the Velnathi Empire accepts your proposal for full alliance between our civilizations." The 5 humans exchanged that instantaneous look of perfect communication. Then Director Zhang activated a new holographic display. "Now let's discuss how we're going to change the galaxy." Princess Queen Zarathel smiled as she settled in for what she suspected would be the most important negotiation in galactic history. Outside, the human city continued its daily rhythm, its 8 billion inhabitants going about their lives while their representatives casually redrew the political map of the cosmos. She had come to this world expecting to add another conquered territory to her empire's collection. Instead, she had discovered a species that could transform her empire into something greater than she had ever imagined possible. As she watched the humans begin outlining plans that spanned centuries and encompassed civilizations that hadn't been contacted yet, she murmured the word that had started it all: impossible. But now she said it with admiration rather than disbelief, because she had learned that when humans declared something impossible, they were usually just getting started.